Hello. I'll just briefly present myself. I have been writing about Miller for about 25 years, and I have 3 books out in Danish and 1 in English, Henry Miller and Modernism. I have always been focusing on the Paris years because it makes a nice excuse for going to Paris, and I think it's also the very best of things he has written. I will probably be repeating a lot of things that have been said yesterday and today, but on the other hand, I can bring a new guy to the table as a contrast to Miller, and that is our enemy, the giant bastard Louis-Ferdinand Céline, and the relationship between the two. It's very briefly said because there was no really a connection between them. They never met, and they never knew each other, and they knew of each other. But that's another thing. And the reason for bringing in Céline here is that they're very good to illustrate each other. They are about the same age. They lived in Paris, and they both had the experience of modernity as a disaster, the capitalistic technological nightmare. And they had personal backgrounds for feeling like this because they both experienced the breakdown of their families. We all know the story about Miller's father's tailor shop, and Céline has a perfectly parallel situation with his mother's lace shop in one of the passages in Paris. Both these families were victims of the modern technology and modern capitalism. For instance, the lace shop was taken out by the gigantic superstores that was emerging, Galerie Lafayette, the dome of commodities, and it actually ruined their families totally. So they had the personal backgrounds for seeing this modern society as a disaster. And they both faced the problems of how do we write about this? Can we use all the forms that have been used before, the traditional literary forms, or are we going to do something else? And they both do experiment with the first person novel. They wanted the direct contact with the reader. But you know, in the traditional first-person novel, we have 2 eyes. We have the narrating eye and the experiencing eye. And the narrating eye sits out in the finish of the text, and he knows everything. This is an authority in the text. And the experiencing eye goes through all these crises and ends up being combined with the narrating eye. Both Miller and Céline experiments with combining the 2 eyes in the beginning, in the experiencing eye. So that they simply skip the narrator, and the experiencing eye goes directly towards the reader, and the text emerges from what he discovers. This is a new technique, and it is very much present in Miller's opening of Tropic of Cancer, which has been presented many times, but nevertheless, I am living in the Villa Borghese. There's not a crumb of dirt anywhere, nor a chair misplaced. There will be more calamities, more death, more despair. The cancer of time is eating us away. Our heroes have killed themselves or are killing themselves. This is a very radical statement because he simply is out of time here. He is out of the ordinary time frame. And that makes him very special at this point, and I might as well tackle the notion of Miller copying Céline. That is, in my opinion, total nonsense. He didn't read. There's a story, a precise story, I think it is, that he got access to the manuscript of Céline's first novel, Journey to the End of the Night. Perhaps he did, but it didn't influence very much because, as you can see, Miller is at quite another level in the Tropic of Cancer. His is out of the normal time frame, but Céline, he is in the Journey to the End of the Night is a rather traditional novel, and it begins like this. Here's how it started. I never said a word. He looks backward. So Miller is much more radical than Céline. Journey to the End of the Night is what we could call a picaresque novel, where the main character travels around the world and he witnesses one disaster after another all around the world. And his experiences are often very dramatic, and the language is fantastic. And it's a brilliant novel. Perhaps Miller could have picked up some ideas, but I don't think it really mattered to him. Miller always mentions Céline very positively, but as a brilliant writer, and Céline always mentions Miller as a swindler and a plagiarist and all the worst language. But Céline, in his next novel, Death on Credit, it begins to develop a new technology that has been used before, but which he introduces now, and which later on becomes his trademark. It is what we call the aposiopesis. That's a nice word. Aposiopesis means that the text is cut up in small fragments. And if you know Céline, he became famous for inserting the 3 dots between all the cuts. So the text becomes staccato, like bum, 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 bum. And it is mostly used in, it's not something he invented, but he makes use of it. It's mostly used in situations of deep crisis and anxiety and things like that. And Miller actually uses it also in certain elements in Tropical Cancer. For instance, when he describes Van Norden's difficulties and things like that, then he can use the aposiopesis. It's a technique developed. It has classical roots, but one modern writer who used it was Knut Hamsun. He used it quite frequently in the novel Hunger, which played a great role for Miller. But I'll now focus on the special development for Miller went through, because this is the most important thing here. From Miller, the full present became a trademark, and it goes through all the Tropic of Cancer. But the interesting part is that he moves from the full present to the notion of China. And this is, in my view, one of the most important parts of Miller's achievements. I'm in China and I'm talking Chinese. I'm in the dead center of a changing reality for which no language has yet been invented. According to the map, I'm in Paris. According to the calendar, I'm living in the third decade of the 20th century, but I'm neither in Paris nor in the 20th century. I'm in China, and there are no clocks or calendars here. He talks a lot about China in the Hamlet letters. And there's another passage I would like to read. China never becomes anything but China. By virtue of this intermediate logic, China is becoming China more and more every day. China is the weed in the human cabbage patch. After every weeding, China reappears as China. It has no further aspiration. The weed is the nemesis of human endeavor. The weed desires only one thing, to remain a weed. This picture of the weed is a perfect picture because it describes that he leaves the structured world. He goes into to another level. This is the perfect rhizomatic field that has no distinct structures that can interfere with life. He simply steps out of time. And I suppose we could talk a lot about the connection between China and the epiphanies in Greece. But I will focus upon, first of all, that one of the main achievements of Henry Miller is that he is able to take the leap. And it's interesting to follow that he simply gathers a whole catalog of leap pictures, mostly from different religious connections. And my personal favorite is the angel. The angel is an inspiration from the Swedenborg cosmology that he knew from Balzac's Serifita, a book he, ironically enough, was given by The Devil in Paradise, Morikang, yes. And he speaks very often about it. I just want to quote here that see how he uses the angel. An angel can break the pattern anywhere at any moment and find its heaven. It has the power to descend into the lowest matter and to extricate itself at will. I was pure and inhuman. I was detached. I had wings. I was dispossessed of the past and had no concern about the future. And later on, in another passage, I felt completely detached from Europe. I had entered a new realm as a free man. Everything has conjoined to make the experience unique and fructifying. Christ, I was happy. Then it was the luck of his life that he was able to go to Greece. It was quite a coincidence because it was an invitation by Lawrence Durrell. But it was perfect timing in 1939 when all the predictions of the world going under became true. He was able to go to Paris, and he had these famous epiphanies. I'm not sure how religious they were. To me, they are mostly literary constructions, but the important thing is that after leaving Greece, he was able to establish himself at this other level. And that is, in my view, the legacy of Henry Miller. He didn't just vanish up into thin air. He was actually able to take that final leap to install himself at a level in outside of the so-called structured capitalistic and technological world. Nevertheless, I wouldn't miss an opportunity to quote just a few of these epiphanies in Greece. One was the religious place Ulysses. One realizes, if never before, that there is no salvation in becoming adapted to a world which is crazy. At Ulysses, one becomes adapted to the cosmos. Ulysses lives eternally in the midst of a dying world. And later on, at Epidaurus, in the stillness, in the great peace that came over me, I heard the heart of the world beat. I knew what the cure is. It is to give up, to relinquish, to surrender, so our little hearts may beat in unison with the great heart of the world. It's a classic epiphany, and I suppose he had real experiences at the place here. And this makes him able to take the final leap. So we have, the first leap was from New York to Paris. That was from the traditional present to the full present, then from Paris to Greece, and then finally from Greece to Big Sur, where we will see the place this afternoon. And for me, that is the inspiration from Miller, that one is actually able to change things. One is able to it is not just philosophy and thinking. He actually did it, and this is in my view, one of his main achievements. In the Oranges and of Hieronymus Bosch, he has many quotes. I'll just give one that describes his situation in Big Sur. The world is, we are. Transients if we buck it, here to stay if we accept it. Nothing is solid, fixed, or unalterable. All is flux, because everything created is also creative. If you're unhappy, and I know you are, take thought. You can spend the rest of your life fighting it out on every front, in every vector, and get nowhere. Give up, throw in the sponge, and possibly you will look at the world with new eyes. Okay, that was Miller. What about Céline? They started out almost parallel, with parallel visions of the world, and but from Céline, everything went wrong. And he was, as you might know, a virulent anti-Semite. And he had this secret card up his sleeve that he knew the world was going under, but he also knew why. And that was because of the great Jewish conspiracy. This brought him into all kinds of troubles, and he collaborated with the German forces in Paris. And there's a fantastic story where he leaves France and moves up to Denmark. So that's why I think we have a little investment in him. But he was put in prison, and he was forbidden to enter France because he was seen as a collaborator. And then he eventually got back. But for him, the Epicurus became like a prison. He simply concentrated on that technology. And if you look at one of his latest books, you can see on the page, there's not one complete line. They're all divided by the dots. And they are all descriptions of fundamental crisis. The world is really going under. And it's kind of tragic to follow the late Céline. He seems to be caught up in his own hatred. So you can't find a more diametrical opposition to Henry Miller's development than Céline. In his last year, he lived in a small town out of Paris called Meudon, and he eventually found out that it was unfashionable to be anti-Semitic. So he changed the enemies to the Chinese. And he looked up on the hills every morning, expecting the Mongol herds coming down the hills after him. It was a tragic event. Up on the hill, there lived Henry Miller. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.